Absolutely not. That will be cut.
Was that really loud?
Yeah.
Okay, welcome to This Is Reviewable, episode 58. We are gonna finally finish reporting on the backlog of stuff that we watched at least a week ago. Starting with A Real Pain, 2024, starring Jesse Eisenberg, actually written, directed, and starring. Written, directed by, and starring Jesse Eisenberg and Kieran Culkin. What's it about?
So this is about two cousins, David and Benji. So David is played by Jesse Eisenberg,
Mm-hmm.
and Benji is played by Kieran Culkin. Two cousins who are Jewish,
Yeah.
and their grandma has died.
Why does that matter? You know how some people will use like a descriptor like that, like
Oh,
Jewish guy. Why does that matter?
okay. I was like,
Except it literally
it does. I was
it,
like, did
it,
you watch this movie?
it literally matters in this case.
So they're Jewish, and their grandmother has passed away recently-ish.
Yeah.
It wasn't like last week or anything, but
Yeah. She left them some cash that they got
yeah,
paid.
so that they could travel to Poland to visit where she used to live
Yeah.
and kind of reconnect with their heritage and all of that.
Right. Because she was a Holocaust survivor, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
And so this movie is kind of about just two completely different personalities dealing with life and trying to reconnect their friendship and all of that, right?
Right. And generational trauma a la the Holocaust and their own personal trauma that they have. I realized on reflection that the title is applicable in a lot of different ways. So, like, Kieran Culkin's character is a real pain. Like, he's very interesting, very particular,
I wrote this down too.
and he can be very frustrating to be around. So, in that sense, he's a real pain. But behind blue eyes, he has some real pain.
Yeah, he's feeling a real
Yeah,
pain.
he's feeling real pain. And then there's also a sort of a rant that Jesse Eisenberg goes on at one point, and he's like, how is it that our grandmother who survived the Holocaust, who got out of that situation, who did, the bravest thing that you could ever do, and then made her way to America, how did Benji come from that? He's sort of comparing the pain that she had to endure to the pain that he and his little pains that he endures and the little pains that Benji has endured comparatively, and sort of saying, well, her pain was the real pain, like that pain is valid. Our pain is kind of bullshit. Like, why do we let it bother us so much? So, this movie is reflecting on sort of all those things at different times, but also at once.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just to give a little bit of context about this movie, so the different personalities between David and Benji is David is very, it seems like he likes to stick to a schedule. He likes to get, to the airport exactly 2 hours early because that's what they recommend. He is just very neat, has a career,
Yeah.
very put together, has followed a life plan and stuck to it and all that. And Benji is very much so a free spirit, I
Yeah.
would say. He did get to the airport super early, and he's like, oh yeah, I was just like trying to meet people.
He's like, there's the craziest people here, man.
Yeah, Benji, doesn't really plan ahead. He like barely has a backpack or something, and
Yeah.
just is kind of going off of the whole plan that David has put together and the schedule. And he's like, yeah, man, it'll work out. At some point, they're on the train together, and David falls asleep. And so Benji doesn't want to wake him up, and they miss their stop, and they have to get on the train going the other way. And Benji's like, it'll just work out. We don't have to buy a ticket. Like, we'll just do it.
Yeah.
And it works out. Just different personalities, you know?
Right. He has a completely different set of priorities, it seems like, to David, because David is very upset by the fact that they missed their stop. And I feel like I'm probably a lot more like David than I am like Benji, because if I fell asleep and missed the stop, that would feel like the end of the world to me for at least like 20, 30 minutes until we got it figured out. And I'd just be like, oh shit, what are we going to do? How, What are we gonna do?
You're making yourself sound funny right now, but you would be way more pissed than this.
You think so?
Yes.
No,
Yes.
I don't think so. I think I would definitely be like, a little bit stressed out, but also like, we got to get off at the next stop, and then we got to buy a ticket, and then we got to wait for the next train coming back, and then we got to, go, because part of the thing that Benji does when they go back the opposite direction on because this is what they do. They get off at the next stop, they go to the other platform, and they wait for the next train going in the opposite direction. Except they decide they're not going to pay for a ticket. And this is Benji's influence. He's like, no, I do this all the time. We were just going to, go to the front of the train as the tickets please guy is asking for tickets. And then, we'll say, oh, you were using the bathroom. Where's the bathroom? And then he'll point us to the bathroom and we'll pass him. We'll go in the bathroom. We'll hang it out in the bathroom for a little bit. And then we'll go and sit down. And then we'll start moving cars just to make sure that we never get caught. I would never do this. Like that
No, I
that
wouldn't
would
either.
that would stress me out so badly. But they have different priorities and different approaches. To Benji, it doesn't matter that they missed their stop and they're making everyone else in the tour late. What matters is that David got his little sleepy sleep.
Is that he was so cute while he was sleeping and he needed the
Yeah.
rest,
Yeah.
and he doesn't care that it affected other people.
Right. Because, his priorities are different. It was more important that
David.
David got to sleep because he was really tired because he made him smoke a joint really late the night before. So just like they just see the world in different ways. And I think we're making Benji just sound really insufferable, but
He's one of those people that is so like David even at some point during the movie is like when you walk into a room or when Benji walks into a room, everybody notices.
yeah,
Everybody's excited to see him.
right.
He's like when I walk into a room, people like could not care less.
Right. He's like when he does things that you like, you love him.
Love him.
But when he does things that you don't like, you're like, fuck me, dude, this guy's annoying.
So they're on this all-inclusive tour, I would say, in Poland.
Yeah.
And most people are like I think there's like two couples and then like David and Benji are together
Yeah.
and then two single people. And at some point they're walking and Benji and David are talking and Benji goes, I wonder why that woman is walking by herself. She probably wants to walk with somebody. And David's like, why? Like maybe she wants to walk by herself. And he's like, what? No.
No one
Nope.
wants to be by themselves.
Yeah, so he runs up to her and he's like,
Hey, why are you walking by yourself? You big loser or something?
yeah, and she thinks it's funny and they start talking and they become friends and
Right. And he has moments like this with everyone else on the tour.
of just connecting with
Right.
people.
Or telling them really important things. Like there's a scene with the tour guide where he, it's a little bit uncomfortable, but in the end, the tour guide is like, I've been asking people for feedback for 10 years, and you're the only one that's ever made me think about what the way that I'm doing this.
But it was a big scene and it was
Yeah.
super awkward at the time.
At the time, right. And
the tour guide
yeah.
appreciated it.
But he's the kind of guy that can touch your life, but maybe not the kind of guy you want to spend every day with.
Yeah.
Just because of, his isms can definitely get to be annoying after a while. I definitely get the sense that this movie is a grower.
Yeah.
Like if I were to see this another time, maybe another 2 times even, dare I say another 3 times even, I think that I would appreciate the little details more and more and more. I definitely liked it on the first viewing, but I'm just saying I think this is probably one that enriches with more views.
And I think if you did watch it, for me, if I watched it a second time, knowing that these uncomfortable things were going to come up, I would be able to appreciate it more. I definitely know people in my life that are super charismatic and then they'll just flip in a second.
Yeah.
And not like a huge outburst, but a small medium outburst, I would say.
Yeah.
And they're uncomfortable. And for me, that gives me a ton of anxiety just because of a few different experiences that I've had of people doing that.
You mean like people getting angry?
Yeah.
Okay. Gotcha.
Like at the cemetery when he goes off on the tour guide.
Oh.
Or at the dinner table when he goes off on everybody and on the train, know.
Right.
Because some of these times, what he's saying isn't wrong.
Right.
Some of them I will say he is wrong, I feel like. But it's uncomfortable to sit there and to be the person associated with that person with a bunch of strangers,
Yeah,
you know?
right.
And if I knew that it was coming, watching it a second time, I think I would appreciate it more because, again, everybody handles things differently. Everybody has their own issues. Everyone has their own mental health and all of that. And I just think this movie does a good job of showing flaws.
Yeah. And it's not like they're fixed at the end.
No,
They just
this is a snippet of life.
yeah. I wrote also that there's bits of people that we all know in Benji, and that makes him relatable despite his extreme personality. He's maybe not exactly like someone you know in your life, but he will do things and say things that will remind you of someone you've met along your journey of life. Another comparison that just popped into my head a little bit is Dickie Greenleaf from The Talented Mr. Ripley, except this one is a little different than that because Dickie Greenleaf is extremely charming and personable, and there's a line in that film where Margie says that when he's smiling on you, it feels like the sun is shining on you, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then when he is not, it feels very cold. That's not really how Benji is because Dickie Greenleaf seems like an extremely passionate person, and when he directs his energy into something, that's where all of his energy goes.
110%.
But like he treats people and hobbies and things as if they're expendable. Like when the next new interesting thing comes along, he'll switch his focus onto that next new more
Mm.
interesting thing. We know people like that. In Benji's case, he has sort of the same effect as Dickie when he's focusing on you, but he remains genuine the whole time.
The whole time.
It's just that certain things will upset him and drive him to distraction. So it's a little bit of a comparison. It's not exactly the same. That's what I mean though. Like there will be things that remind you of other characters that you've come across, whether in real life or in fiction or whatever. So I think you'll find Benji relatable. I also think that Kieran Culkin does a great job in this movie for sure.
Yeah.
He's great. Jesse Eisenberg does a great job too. I was expecting it out of Kieran Culkin. I don't think I was really expecting as much out of Jesse Eisenberg as I got.
From what it kind of sounds like, Jesse Eisenberg wrote himself.
Hmm.
He just wrote himself down on paper, and that's David.
So he's literally the same in every movie he's in.
It seems like it.
Yeah.
He just plays himself,
Yeah.
and the character finds him.
Right. But I mean, there's moments though where he gets emotional where I was like, "Whoa, that's really effective.
Yeah.
That's really good. I buy this."
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, really, really good stuff performance wise. I have a few more notes here. I wrote when they go off on their own, I was like, oh yeah, I love that part of a trip. Doing your own thing after many tours is the best,
Yeah.
where you just kind of feel free, and you can actually enjoy the place. You can soak in the vibe of whatever the place is that
And go at your own pace
yeah, that you
and
that
do
you're
whatever
in.
you want and go off book and yeah.
Yeah, like as an example, when was the last time I felt like this? Here's one. So we went to Rome and we had a ton of tours in Rome, which were great. We toured the Colosseum, we toured the Forum, and that was a very long experience, but it was very good, very informative. It was a 3-hour tour. And we got done with the tour and we were like, okay, let's go shopping on Corso Vittorio Emanuele. That's the big shopping street in Rome. And as you're on that Corso, you pass the Spanish Steps. Eventually, you get to Piazza del Popolo, and if you go up, there's Villa Borghese, and it's just really like. But you're not worrying so much about what it all means. You're kind of just living in the city,
Mm-hmm.
and it feels so like a breath of fresh air. So that really has almost nothing to do with the movie except for my own.
You just wanted to relate to it.
As soon as they go off on their own, I was like, oh, I love that feeling when you're on a trip and you've done all this great tour stuff, but now you get to just live.
There is this part in the movie where everybody's at dinner and everyone's kind of going around and sharing special things about themselves or stories from their life and all of that. And Benji kind of has this moment of going off. I can't even remember what it was about. After at the end of his freak out, he's like, "Oh, I have to go to the bathroom," and he leaves. And David has this moment of being like, he's so amazing, and yet he does all these stupid things, and people love him, and yet he does all these stupid things, and he's trying to explain Benji to the rest of the group. And I wrote down, I think people close to you can see you for who you are and yet miss large portions of who you are. Like, you're too close and you can't see that they're struggling with this one thing. Or you're too close and you don't know how to relate to them because you have all these other life experiences of them being fine. I don't know how to explain this without really giving away
Yeah.
what happened, because I think it's worth seeing the movie to find out. I just think it's interesting that sometimes strangers can see you clearer than the people closest to you at times
Right.
in certain aspects and all of that. And I just thought that was really interesting the way that they
Yeah.
showed that in this movie.
Well, that's why it's very important when you're dating anyone seriously to have your friends examine them, open their mouth, make sure their teeth are good, all the usual horse stuff. But
Check their hooves.
exactly. But also, like, when you're in a relationship, you become blind to flaws pretty quickly. You need people to look at the person you're dating and look at your interactions with that person in an objective way. So that's a romance tip you didn't think you were going to get from us today. Don't hide who you're dating from your friends. Like, get someone you trust to observe you from afar with binoculars in the bushes, to hang out with you guys and talk with you. And then with that other person out of the room, gone, ask them what they think.
And be open. Be
Yeah,
open to what they have to say about it.
yeah.
And them.
We've gone off in some unexpected directions, I'll say, during this review, talking about shit like trips, trip freedom, and relationships. And is this what it means to truly have a podcast?
It's just tangents.
Yeah, you get derailed and shit.
Yeah, probably.
Yeah. All right.
The last thing that I wrote down as a dislike is, why does David only button the top button of these button down shirts?
Oh yeah, is that a thing?
And because he's wearing like a t-shirt and then he's wearing a flannel or a button down or whatever on top, and he just buttons the top button and then it like hangs loose.
Yeah, because I've seen people skip the top two buttons, and then obviously you skip at least the bottom button. But
Yeah, so you just button one in the middle, whatever.
one or two or three, well,
Yeah.
whatever. How many? I don't know how many
But to
buttons you
just
have.
button the top button, wild
Yeah,
to me.
there's something psychotic about that, isn't there?
Yeah.
All right, I have a couple more
Okay.
notes. I put maybe my favorite movie slap.
That's fair.
Can't think of any others right now, but this one was pretty good. Really good, really funny.
Yeah.
I liked that scene a lot. And then I wrote this, this will take us full circle. Is he a real pain, or does he have real pain? Or is it both? Or is it both for both of them? Only God will know. And Jesse Eisenberg. And with that,
I really liked that the title means different things.
yeah. And you can parse it however you want to parse it.
Yeah.
But let's rate it. I think I would give this an 8 on first viewing. I think it's really solid. It's not the movie that profoundly touched me the most this year. It's not the movie that
It's just the beginning of the year.
whatever. This, I'm counting this in the 2024 bracket
Oh.
of films, but it's really solid. And like I said, I think it's going to be a grower. So I would give this an 8 neurotic Mark Zuckerbergs out of 10.
Nice. I'm gonna rate this an 8.25. An 8.5, I think. I think that this movie is fairly relatable in different ways, or even just in small ways that was fun to watch. And I like the color grading that they had on this movie. It was just very bright and happy for the most part. So I'm going to rate this an 8.5 Jewish stones on the step.
Oh yeah, I like that part too.
Yeah,
All right, I don't have any spoiler things to talk about.
I don't really either.
Okay.
But that doesn't mean that this isn't worth watching. This is definitely worth watching.
Yeah. It's just that none of the spoilers are pressing to talk about.
Right.
And I think you should have your own cute little journey with this movie. Your own little meet cute. Are you going first or am I going first?
Can I go first?
Sure.
Okay, so I watched Silo season 2. This season just finished being released. They were releasing episodes weekly. So basically, what the show is about is there is a society of people who it's called the silo that they live in, and it's basically just this huge,
Silo.
yeah, that's underground. And they've been told their whole lives that this is they're here because the outside world is toxic and you only ask to go outside.
Like emotionally toxic.
Right.
Yeah.
And abusive.
Right.
You only ask to go outside if you really mean it, and you only say it, you only get the chance to say it once. You can't take it back. And then if you do say I want to go outside, you get put in the suit and you walk outside, and people, they have a camera that's outside the silo, and everybody dies within, I don't know, 30 seconds pretty much. And then you're just looking at these dead bodies that are out there.
Because it's so toxic.
Right. And so everybody has a specific job in the silo. And the show is about this woman, Juliet, who is a mechanic down in the down deep, because the silo is broken up into like three different categories, like the uppers, the mids, and the lower,
Right.
the down deep, I guess.
Yeah.
And it's kind of like a class system. You know, if you're in the upper, that's like where the mayor lives, the sheriff of the entire silo, the like IT department, just like all the people with like really important jobs live up there. And then like the mids are just kind of normal people. There could be doctors in there. They could just be farmers and stuff like that. And then in the bottom is where a lot of people that work with their hands, mechanical, the plumbers or stuff like that. And the silo is 140 levels. I can't remember exactly. It's over 100 levels. So like when people in the uppers talk about having to go all the way down to the down deep, they're like, "Oh, I'll be there overnight because it'll take so long." Because they don't have an elevator. You have to take stairs all the way down. In season 1, there's just kind of a lot of secrecy, I would say, about there's just a lot of secrets, and Juliet's trying to figure out.
I think you should focus on season 2.
I'm just giving an update, and then the rest of it is all spoilers.
Mhm.
That's why. Juliet is just trying to figure out what is going on, and season 1 ends with her going out. So the rest of this is season 2, and it's spoilers. I would really recommend.
For season 1 or for season 2?
This is spoilers, like, for the whole show. Because season 2, if you haven't seen season 1, this is all spoilers.
But are you going to spoil things that happen in season 2 right now?
No.
Okay, so spoilers for season 1.
I guess. So I guess this is about season 2. If you haven't seen season 1, go and watch season 1 and don't listen to this. Except that I recommend watching season 1 first. So season 2 starts off, Juliet gets into another silo. It turns out that there's a ton of silos in this area after she gets outside. And she ends up meeting this guy named Solo in another silo. And it's obvious that he's been there by himself for a really long time. And she keeps asking for help, and he won't come out of this room that he's in because it's not safe and all of that. And they end up becoming friends and all of that and trying to figure stuff out. While that's happening, back in Juliet's original silo, people are like, Juliet lived, and now people are rioting, and nobody is following the rules. All of the down deep people are upset at the uppers, and some kind of coup happens at some point. The thing that I love about this show is nobody does anything that's stupid just to move the plot ahead.
Mm-hmm.
It's not a slow show, but it's definitely not fast paced. Like, there's a lot of episodes where, like, one major thing happens and the whole episode revolves around that while still moving the plot forward. And so when there's episodes where a lot of things happen, you're like, oh my gosh, like 3 or 4 different major things just happened, and yet it doesn't feel fast paced or out of place that so many things happened. The way that they set these episodes up is perfect, I would say. I don't want to say too much, but this is probably one of my favorite shows that I've ever seen.
Really?
Yeah.
Ever?
Yeah.
Wow.
Already, with some of these episodes.
More than Keeping Up with the Kardashians.
Yeah.
More than the televised trial of O.J. Simpson.
That one's really good.
No, I'm talking about the actual trial.
Oh, I never saw that.
More than the televised trial of Johnny Depp in Ever Heard.
I also didn't watch the whole thing.
Wow.
Oh my goodness. The thing that I was crazy about this, I feel like, is episodes were coming out weekly, and there were some episodes that I finished and I wanted to just immediately restart it because it was so good. And some weeks I'd watch it like they come out on Friday, and so I would watch it on Friday, and then like the following Thursday I'd watch it again to prepare for Friday the next day for the new episode. And like the last episode of the season was so good that, like I said, I just wanted to rewatch it. And
Did you?
I'm still thinking about it.
Coward.
I feel like a crazy person doing that, but
it's very cowardly that you haven't done it yet.
but this show is a 10 out of 10 in my opinion.
Really?
Yeah.
A 10 out of 10?
For me, I really enjoy it.
Wow.
I think the acting is great. The only complaint about like filming I have is that some of the scenes are just too dark. So if they could have just brightened some of those scenes a little bit, it would have been better. But that's like my only complaint, The casting is amazing. I think I said the acting is really good.
When
the
you say
sets
that
they have is really good.
When you say the casting, when she says the casting, what she means is the caste system is really good, and she wishes we would do something like that here. Right?
No.
Okay.
I think that Rebecca Ferguson does an amazing job in this show.
I've always liked her. What about Common?
He does a really good job too. You really hate him in this show.
You may know him from John Wick Chapter 2.
Isn't he in other stuff?
It might be. Yeah, I think he's gotten some acting gigs.
Oh yeah.
Oh, Tim Robbins, Andy Dufresne.
Oh yeah, from Shawshank.
Yep.
Is in it.
From Shankshaw. That's like the most cringy for some reason. All right, let me back all the way up. So when Micah and I first started dating, Micah was watching Riverdale, and so I started to watch Riverdale as well. And I got like halfway through season 1 or something before I was like, what am I doing?
You didn't even like it. You only watched it because we were dating and you were trying to be nice.
Anyway, that was the end of my Riverdale journey. Micah continued to watch it, but this year, or last year I should say, in 2024, around the fall,
I haven't watched that show in
leaves
like 2
were
years.
falling. Leaves were falling, birds were calling. It was a beautiful time. And for some reason, the YouTube algorithm decided to bless me with shows or videos titled something like "What the was Yellowstone?" or just like,
you mean Riverdale?
Or yeah, Riverdale. What? Riverdale is the most unhinged show of all time. Just like, stuff like this. And I was like, oh yeah, I'll watch this. And I would just like get recaps of
plot points,
how insane that show was. Got right. And anyways, this was a long way to explain what I meant by Shankshaw. But apparently they call the prison in Riverdale Shankshaw Prison. And when I heard those words, that is the cringiest thing I've ever heard in my life. That's why I said Shankshaw. I know it's Shawshank. Continue.
I guess I didn't finish my a 10 out of 10 badass Rebecca Ferguson's.
Okay.
Out of 10.
And but she's never been more badass than when she was in Mission Impossible, though, right?
She's pretty badass.
Yeah.
This one.
My favorite part of this show is when Rebecca Ferguson.
Keeping it.
No. My favorite part of this show is when Rebecca Ferguson says, 10th level, thousands of battle droids. That's my favorite part.
Oh my gosh. I thought you were going to say, my favorite part is when Rebecca Ferguson says, it's silo time.
That was my second favorite part, I think.
It's Morbid time.
But my third favorite part was when Tim Robbins said, "You think this scares me, Rebecca Ferguson? I crawled through a mile of shit to escape Shankshaw prison."
Shankshaw?
Yeah. I liked that part too.
Do you think you'll ever watch this?
I don't know. I watched the first 2 episodes last year or 2 years ago whenever the first season came out, and I just kind of found it boring.
But I feel like this is the type of show that you like.
Maybe there needs to be more blood. Maybe there needs to be more blood, sex, and rock and roll.
Oh, yeah. I guess Parents Guide, there was a lot of language.
I need there to be more.
Apparently. When my mom was saying that, I didn't even remember a single language.
There is.
There's language. There is some violence, I would say, like in like season 2.
I need there to be more.
I would not call it excessive, and if there is, like, they don't show blood or anything like that. I think that's all there really is.
Here's what I need. Here's what I need for me to watch this show.
Okay.
Are you ready?
Yeah.
All right. I need Castlevania violence.
Mm,
I need Game of Thrones sex. I need Wolf of Wall Street language. And I need Jimmy Page rock and roll.
Jimmy Page.
And I need Beautiful Boy drugs. I need
You
drugs.
could have also said Wolf of Wall Street drugs.
True. I need both combined, let's
And
say.
Wolf of Wall Street nudity.
Okay.
And sex.
I need all that. That's what I need. I need drug, sex, rock and roll, violence, and language. More of everything, please. I'll take one of everything.
Okay.
10th level. Thousands of drug, sex, and rock and roll.
Okay.
I don't know. I'll probably watch it one day, but it's added to the ever-growing list, so who knows if that'll actually happen.
I just want to rewatch it already.
Yeah?
Yeah.
You need help.
I just don't have a lot to watch right now.
Watch Castlevania.
No.
Why not? Coward.
Oh my gosh.
All right. Am I up now?
Fine.
Cool. I pulled up my notes. I don't actually have any notes. So that was just a symbolic gesture.
That nobody could see.
To you. It was meant to intimidate. Did it work?
Intimidate me for what?
Well, you see, I have notes. You might think, what does he have on those notes? Is it about me? Did you think? Did you think that?
Wait, I have to share this.
Did you think that?
I have to share this.
Micah?
I started keeping a list of Braden's red flags. You want to hear some of them?
I'm taking notes.
Okay. There have been many times where, you go to a hotel or we're in an Airbnb or maybe we're staying at someone's house and we don't sleep with the top sheet. We just sleep with a comforter. And so I'll climb into bed after Braden has already been in bed and he's on top of the top sheet under the comforter. Red flag to me. Okay? Braden brushes his teeth with hot water.
No, I don't.
Yes, you do.
Sometimes.
Red flag. Braden also calls the podcast the cast because he thinks calling it the pod is cringy.
Mm-hmm.
Red flag. These are just red flags that I've accumulated over the last 2 days.
You see how petty Micah is? I'm going to start my red flags and they're going to be good.
No, that's going to be toxic. That's a red flag.
I'm going to write things like kills squirrels,
Don't
eats
say that.
babies,
Don't say that.
loves Nosferatu.
You want to know a red flag that people actually would think is a red flag?
For us?
For me.
Okay.
I gotta sleep with socks on.
Aren't you not supposed to do that?
My feet get too cold and then I can't sleep.
Well, I think, okay, whatever.
Okay, so Fargo.
Yeah.
Season 4.
Yeah, so I watched Fargo season 4 and I finished this a couple weeks ago. This is the black sheep of the Fargo seasons. This is definitely the most divisive one.
Why?
People don't like it for a couple of reasons that I've been able to glean from my cursory searches on the interwebs. I'm just pulling up the Rotten Tomatoes real quick just to give you an idea of the split. So we've got, for how long Rotten Tomatoes has been a website, they have not improved the user experience one bit. Do you know what I'm referencing there?
No.
Not one bit. Nothing?
You just said the exact same thing twice.
No, I did the full quote that time.
What's it from?
The Dark Knight.
Oh.
Okay.
Maybe they just want things to stay familiar.
So season 1 of Fargo has a 97.97. That's critics' audience. Season 2 of Fargo, 195. Season 3 of Fargo, 93.87. It's a little surprises me a little bit. I love season 3. Let me go to season 5. Season 5 of Fargo, 93.90. So very high so far, right? Across the board. Season 4 of Fargo, 84.57.
Critics and then audience?
Yeah.
That's crazy.
I think that 57 is extremely harsh because I had a pretty good time with this. I understand people don't like it because it feels like more of a gangster drama than it does classic Fargo, but I would argue that's kind of how season 2 felt as well. Sure, season 4 is a little bit more of a straight up crime show than season 2 is, and it loses a little bit of like the Fargo dark humor and the Fargo charm and the weirdness, but it still has some of that in it. Like one of the very first scenes and really the inciting incident for the main conflict in this season is this Italian mob boss is at a stop sign and these kids are playing with a BB gun and outside, and they are by a park, and then like the kid shoots the gun and it deflects off something and it hits the old man in the neck and it starts like gushing blood because
Whoa.
it hit an artery, just like a freak. Like what
Yeah.
the, that, and that's a very Fargo thing to happen. So like there's still definitely Fargoisms in this, despite it being more of a out and out crime thriller. The other thing that people don't like about this season is there's a ton of characters, and that's true. There are many characters and many subplots that are kind of going on all at once, but I was interested in pretty much all of them. I'll be totally honest with you. I enjoyed pretty much all of them. Another thing that people don't like about this is they didn't think Chris Rock did a great job. Chris Rock is one of the leads in
I thought
this,
he did a good job.
from what you saw.
Yeah.
Yeah, I thought so too. Like, I thought he was decent. I didn't think he was incredible.
No, but I thought he did the job well.
Yeah, yeah. There's a lot that I liked. Like Chris Rock was interesting to me. Jason Schwartzman's character was interesting to me. They got an Italian actor, Salvatore Esposito, and he's in Gomorrah. So he is one of the Italian mobsters. Comes over from Italy. He's a good character. He's interesting. There's this freaking psycho nurse named Orietta,
She the prostitute.
played by Jessie Buckley. No, she's not a prostitute. Her story was very interesting. There's a subplot as well with Mr. Irishman, Ben Wishaw, who plays the Q in the new 007 movies, the quartermaster. So he plays an Irish gangster that was adopted into the Italian family, and he is taking under his wing the son of Chris Rock. Very convoluted. This is going to sound very confusing to people. Basically, a thing that they do in this takes place in, where does it take place? Kansas City. This takes place in Kansas City, and a thing that the Kansas City gangs do is they trade sons for peace, basically. Because if you trade your son to the other side, you're not going to want to go to war with that side because they have your son and they can kill your son. So that's what they do. So Chris Rock gives his son over to the Italians, and this Irishman that has been adopted into the Italian family takes him under his wing. And there's some connections with season two going on, and it's kind of cool and kind of interesting. And then there's this Mormon character played by Timothy Oliphant, who I just found hilarious. He's not even listed in the main cast, which is crazy. He is just hilarious in this. He plays a U.S. Marshal, shocker, but a Mormon U.S. Marshal, and like some of the things he says are so funny to me, and like really kind of like very accurate to what would have been Mormon beliefs in amongst the lay people at the time. Like even just like little slang words like criminy. He says criminy, and I was like, my grandma used to say that. That's right. That's exactly right. So just some really fun stuff. And then there's a lot of good stuff, a lot of stuff I liked. I loved the editing. I was keeping track of a lot of the conflicts. There's also one episode that's just really cool. It's like it's all in black and white, and it feels kind of like a weird dream. And then a big tornado hits, and it feels very Fargo. It feels very Coen Brothers. So I don't know. I liked this. I didn't like it as much as seasons 1 through 3, I'll admit, but I definitely think that 57% is harsh. That's ridiculous.
Oh, Monica's in this
Oh, she is, yeah.
season
Yeah, Monica Dutton.
from Yellowstone.
That's another side plot. Yeah, so I get it. There's a lot to kind of keep track of, but I think that the show, like the season is long enough and it's done well enough that you can keep track of everything you need to. I never found myself going, wait, who was that again? What were they doing again? What was this? I never did that.
Wah, wah, wah.
Yeah, I always felt like I was more or less in my seat understanding everything.
So, what do you think it should have been rated for the audience instead? I guess your rating would replace. So, never mind.
Yeah, I guess
I
kind
can
of.
wait.
I mean, this works. It's an aggregation, right? So,
I know.
but that's the thing is you have to give it a less than 50% review for it to be considered negative on Rotten Tomatoes or something like that. So enough people thought that this was 2 out of 5 stars, or two point something out of 5 stars to give it a 57% at least. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I think I would give this season like I want to give it an 8, but I think I'm gonna give it a 7.5. Yeah, I'll give it a 7.5.
Okay, so you would have given, if you could replace the Rotten Tomatoes, you would have done 75.
75. Yeah, I would give it a 7.5 BBs to the gullet out of 10. And I thought there was a spoiler I wanted to talk about, but yeah, well, maybe not. I think this is worth watching, and especially if you're already binging through the Fargo catalog. Like, you might as well, if you've gotten to season 4, you might as well watch season 4. You're probably going to find things to like about it, like I did. And then think of it as like a little treat that waits for you at the end of the tunnel, that you get season 5
Yeah.
at the end. So it was good.
So coming up, we have Margin Call.
Oh, are we talking about that?
Yeah.
Okay.
Right? That's what it's called?
Yeah, margin call.
Margin Call. I started a new show, but I don't know that I'll have it done by next week. It's called Say Nothing. I don't know that I'll have it finished by next week, but we'll see. Do you have anything coming up?
I'm rewatching the first season of Castlevania Nocturne because the second season has come out, or is coming out, and I wanted to just catch myself up a little bit so I could talk about the first season. I feel like I talked about that already.
I think you probably did.
Yeah, so we'll see. We'll see if I get to season 2 and finish it in time.
Okay. And coming up in not the next episode, but in the future, Braden never watched Severance season 1, so we'll probably talk about that. We're trying to make our way through it since season 2 has come out. Future, but not the near future.
Yeah,
So, your video.
I have a video. Thank you to everyone who has watched the Yellowstone video, because that kind of blew up for our standards. Very appreciative to everyone
Yeah.
who's watched, liked, commented, even disliked, even hate commented.
Which is not very many, I felt like.
No, the overwhelming majority is people that agree with me, which I like. I like to live in an echo chamber. It's good. It's
For
fun.
this video, for this topic at least. Otherwise, yeah, no.
And then I'm also releasing a video on Ted Lasso. It will be out by the time this episode drops, the first part. And then the second part will come out 2 days after this episode will have aired. So keep your eyes peeled and your ears, what do they
Listen.
say, to the street? Keep your ear to the street. I like to keep my ear to the street. I like to keep my nose to the grindstone.
Yeah, so go check out Braden's videos. Again, those are only on YouTube.
Yeah, they'll be in the video essay playlist as well. I tried to make that a little more clear on our YouTube homepage because I felt like it was getting, what's the word, cannibalized.
No, that's not the word that you're looking for.
I felt,
Convoluted?
yeah, I felt like it was getting a little confusing because if you watched the Yellowstone video and then went to our YouTube page, you'd see podcast episodes mixed with the video essays, and I didn't really like that.
Okay.
I want it to be a house of order over there, so
A House of Peace.
I hopefully made it a little more clear which is which.
Okay. You have anything else?
Nah.
Okay, have a great week, everybody. Bye.